This is about analyzing data which we do obtain from participants. So it is only focusing on primary data, but you will see that when we talk about secondary data, that in terms of analysis, it is not necessarily that different. What is different with the secondary data is that we need to have various other things to take into consideration. So what we have here for starters is what we do before we actually get started on with the analysis. So what every person who is writing about this topic or interested in it or teaches any kind of research methods, they will always emphasize in some ways that you need to immerse yourself in the data. And some will give you tools for that, some will just suggest that you read it again and again. So what you actually do is that you, yes, some will tell you that you need to transcribe all your data or your interviews, for example, if it is about interviews, and that this is going to be very helpful because that way you get immersed in your data. I don't really believe in transcribing, but I get the point. So it is important that you spend time with and inside your data. So basically, you need to immerse yourself so much that you feel that the data is talking to you. This is especially important and not that easy to achieve when you are working with, for example, data that was posted on social media, in which case you don't have the personal connection as, for example, you would when you do the interviews. And if you go through these posts and you are living with them, then you will feel eventually as if those people are actually talking to you whose posts you are processing. So this is what I mean by immerse yourself. And of course, you need to also think about how and what you need to do in order that your data is easy to analyze. As you have done much more in the world of quantitative analysis, you probably already know the importance of this, because if you do your data preparation well in quantitative studies, then your analysis will take almost no time and it will almost be automatically right. So the kind of time ratio is what I have seen previously is spending, for example, at a PhD level thing where you have lots of data. So spending between 2 months and 6 months on cleaning the data, getting it ready for the analysis. And if this was done properly, then the analysis never took longer than 2 weeks. So the analysis in that in the quantitative world can be very fast, of course, only if you are ready for it, if you know what you are doing. Now, in the qualitative world, it is different. The preparation doesn't take that long, but also the analysis cannot be that fast. So in some ways, you should get stuff into some sort of database, because that is how you can represent the analysis. So you need to think about software as well. So, for example, which software you will use. And the importance of the software is not that it in qualitative work. It is not that it does the analysis instead of you. You will still have to go through the whole analysis stuff manually, but you can visualize it, you can make it easier to handle, and so on. So it is more a presentational type work. So, for example, if you are coding interview text, you will still need to go through all the interviews and do the coding. I will explain later on what that is. However, this also means that you should be able to have, for example, excerpts from different interviews in one place, because the software can single these out. So it is not really that the software does anything that you could not do with pen and paper. It is just a little bit more convenient. And if you do it that way, then you can include some screenshots in your dissertation, and that makes it more convincing that this is a serious argument that you are providing there. Now, qualitative data is a tiny bit weird term. In some languages far more than in English. In English, it is generally accepted that there is such thing as qualitative data. For example, in Hungarian, when you use the word data, people usually mean numbers, things that are traditionally in the databases, quantities, measurement outcomes, and such. Now, qualitative data is also can be stored in databases, but today we have all sorts of databases that are very different from the traditional ones. So we can have video databases where one field of data can be a few hours long video recording. So it is not limited anymore what we can actually store in databases. Now, therefore, it is very important to think about it slightly differently, because very often when you talk about qualitative analysis, you only think about the transcripts. And the actual qualitative data is not only the transcripts. The transcripts only contain the words, but for example, not how they were said, what kind of tone of voice, what sort of body language was included with it, what sort of mood was there when this was said, what kind of attitude the person was displaying, and all sorts of non-verbal things are excluded. So the way how you normally cope with this is that you take notes, and you do that quickly after you, for example, conduct an interview. But in any case, what is important is that any of these stuff, anything visual, auditory, verbal, and so on, this all stuff qualifies as qualitative data, and you should be able to analyze it. If you look at these software packages, you can analyze photographs with them. You can single out different parts of a photo and say, assign particular meaning to those different parts. You can analyze video recordings and so on, so on, so on. So as you are going through this process, so as you live with your data, you let it talk to you and so on, you also try to figure out how you will be able to show what you find. And also you need to make a choice of a method or how you want to go about the analysis. For me, the most important guiding principle was that I wanted to preserve as much as possible of the richness of my data.